Oh man, and we're back. Episode 107, I think. Ooh, is it 107? 108? I don't know. We got so many now, man. We rocking them out, man. Y'all know who I am, King Arthur, Unify and Thrive. If you didn't know, don't you forget it. Time to get spooky outside. So please love on yourself and love on your neighbors. Unify and Thrive. Frank, what up, Frank? We miss you. Come on back to us. Get your mind right, get your mind together. We missed you, man. Go check out the book. Go check out Elusive Perspective. He got the links on our website. He got the links on the Instagram and TikTok. He wrote the book. I'm proud of you, Frank, putting the book out. And so, go check it out, man. He'll tell you more about it when he comes back. It's a great book. Today we have Miss or Dr. Tenia Davis. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, man. I'm glad you're here. Appreciate you. I think this is going to be a really good conversation. I'm looking over your bio, and it seems like we have a lot of things in common or mindsets or philosophies, right? So,
Okay.
to get the show started, we have all our guests ask our famous question of what was or what is your figuring shit out moment, right? So something that had you moving differently or something that made you say, aha, and you just start living your life in a whole new way.
Wow. I can't say it's just one thing. It's probably many
Okay.
things, but
All right.
definitely being a parent is very humbling. And so, excuse me, I have a cold, but that's one.
Uh-huh.
And then, just life in general, making mistakes. I learned that making mistakes is okay. I
Yeah.
used to be afraid to make mistakes,
Okay.
and some of my greatest lessons came out of mistakes that I made. I've had wonderful mentors along the way, so I would say paying attention, taking feedback, and one thing I will say is that in terms of my career, I started in corporate, very buttoned up, very suit wearing,
Mhm.
and moved into different industries. And one thing that I realized is that there's just something very charging about tech and creative environments that really inspired me and allowed me to grow and spread my wings that maybe a corporate setting would not have allowed. So, knowing your tribe is very important. And
Absolutely.
knowing your tribe will definitely dictate how you thrive. And so, I will definitely say that is something I take with me. Um,
Mhm.
you know who you are. Otherwise, people will define that for you.
Uh,
So it's not just one. I've learned,
okay.
and I'm still learning. I'm still
Absolutely.
still
Absolutely.
learning.
So give me a mistake. Give me a mistake that when you said everybody make mistakes and it's okay to make mistakes, right? So talk about a mistake where you made a mistake and you was like, and you thought it was going to be the end of the world and you realized it wasn't, and you were just like, oh, it's okay. Things are going to get better. The world still is going to go on.
Yeah. Well, I say one that still resonates because I'm constantly reminding myself it's okay to ask for help. And I was working on a
Mm.
project, actually leading a project, and I was trying to go it alone, do it myself. Didn't want to show my flaws, my weaknesses, and really made a costly mistake. And um, it taught me the importance of making sure you trust the people that you're working with. And, that's a muscle that is built over time. And as you are learning to trust them, they're also learning to trust you. So you don't have to do it alone. And asking for help is also a sign of maturity.
Yes, ma'am. If you want to go fast, go alone, right? If
There
you
you
want to go
go.
far, if you want to go far, go with other people.
That's an
And
African proverb. That's right.
man, it's a major key, especially when you kind of get a grasp of it, because we are, especially in our community sometimes, and when you look at some of the things that's attractive to us, right? So,
Hmm.
or put in front of us, like the culture, the music, or the entertainment, or the sports, uh, they are team sports, but you only mainly see the one star, right? Like Michael
Hmm.
Jordan is the star, or Kobe Bryant or LeBron is the star, and we just forget that there's
Yep.
11 other people on the team. There's a
Yeah.
whole training staff. There's a whole coaching staff. There's a whole machine behind it. But we sometimes get caught up in, I want
Yeah.
to be like Mike, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's a major point.
Yeah, and everybody has a role to play, and you know
Hmm.
you might be Kobe on one team, and then you might be Scotty on another team, or you know
Right.
you might be Michael, whatever it might be. Um, but I think a lot of times companies make the mistake of saying there can only be one star, and I
Mm-hmm.
just don't believe that. I think everybody brings a superpower to the table, and it's good, not good, but great leadership that knows how to get the best out of that entire team. And that is what makes a strong unit, not one person. One person cannot win alone. But it's the leadership that knows how to get the best out of that collective group
Mm-hmm.
and help the group move forward. And also to identify strengths and weaknesses, right? It's easy to go for the shining star. And that's
Mm-hmm.
easy, right? But it takes good leadership and thoughtfulness to identify, to maybe see the diamond in the rough, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, or to see, help someone see the talent that maybe they didn't see, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's a lot there, right? So you mentioned you were a parent, right? And
Oh yeah.
that
Two
is
girls.
okay. I have a boy and two girls, so I have three children, right? And
Oh, you
yeah,
still have all your hair.
well, they're young. They're young. They're 7, 5, and 3, right? So they're pretty.
Oh, that's the fun age. That's the fun
Is
age. Right
it?
now, you know everything. So just hold
Yeah.
on to this moment.
And that's what I was gonna say, right? Like you like you said you gotta find the best in the people, right,
Hmm.
in the leader, right? So that's kind of
Hmm.
where I'm at now, like letting them make mistakes and
Yeah.
letting them. I don't know everything, but I do know what I do know, and kind of trying to instill that confidence in them. So,
Hmm.
when they become people of their own, they can go out here and be their own person without
Yeah.
looking for somebody to hold their hand all the time, right? So,
Yeah.
and
It
you
builds their
mentioned,
confidence too. It builds their, I'm
uh,
sorry. Yeah. It builds
oh,
their
go ahead.
confidence. It builds their confidence.
Right.
Yeah.
And I say a little bit more now. My son's in Taekwondo, and he's getting better at it. He's getting more confident in it, but and he's also getting that urge of I want to be better at it, right? So they got to do the
Mm.
testing for the different belts and whatnot, and it's like he's taking some initiative. I'm still like, hey man, you probably should practice. You got your test coming up. You don't want to look crazy out there. He's like, oh yeah, and he'll practice. And even like when we go outside and play basketball, he's like, I'm like, oh, we're gonna make 2 more shots when we go home. And he'll make his 2 shots. Like, I'll make 2 more. I'm like, I'm cool. I ain't got nothing to do. I done made dinner and everything already, so it's cool for me. But um,
That's
you you
nice.
mentioned you mentioned leadership, right,
Hmm.
and organization a lot. So
Hmm.
I looked at your bio and it says organizational culture and leadership development expert. Right.
Hmm.
So what is that? And tell me kind of what it is you do as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, well, I do have a day job.
Okay.
So I live out my passion as an extension of my day job. So I've been an HR practitioner for over 20 years
Mm-hmm.
and a, a leadership expert basically means within the frame of an organization. I've been able to help leaders thrive and do well, through the different levels within the group. So whether there's a director or even if it's a manager aspiring to, right? Um, so let me unpack your question. So organizational culture, organizational behavior, culture development. I kind of put them in kind of one bucket, but that's really understanding what makes the organization tick, right? What is it about that organization that makes it thriving? What is it that makes employees go back there every day? What is it that makes the employees say, this is the place that I want to be, right? So that's understanding the organizational culture. The leadership is a strong component of it because that is it's like an extension, right? You can say the mission and the vision of the company is XYZ. And as a leader of that organization, this is what I embody as an extension of that organization. And so I work with leaders. In my day job as an HR practitioner, I head up HR for a research organization. So that's my day job. And then, of course, I work with leaders as a coach and help them. to develop and strengthen their skill set. So it might be through communication, it might be giving feedback, it might be understanding strategy within the organization unit itself, it might be how to lead small teams, how to lead large teams, right?
Mhm.
So it's an extension of what I do in my day job, basically. So yeah.
Okay, that's nice. And like I'm just curious as to how one goes from being an HR expert, because I work a day job too. Me and Frank both have day jobs, right?
Uh-huh.
And one of our driving motivational forces is they don't pay us enough to be their neighbor, right? So I walk, they don't pay us enough to be their neighbor, right? So we got
That's
to
funny.
supplement the income somehow. And then we
Right.
all have a passion for what we do, and
Yeah.
the message we're sharing, or whatever, right? But when
Mm-hmm.
we think about HR, we just think about people probably recruiting and or helping
Mm-hmm.
the culture with harassment suits or pay and things,
So those are
making sure.
that's the foundation, right? Those are the
Okay,
fundamentals, right?
right.
But strategic HR, done well, really can help an organization thrive. That's helping an organization have the right structure, having the right people in the right position, the right role, the right career path to retain their talent,
Mm-hmm,
understanding what the business is. HR professionals today are more immersed in the business itself. What is the business? And what are the different nuances of skill sets that are needed to continue helping that business to thrive, right? And do you have a
mm-hmm,
workforce that needs retooling, right? So HR, it's funny. What you're describing is a lot of it is personnel and it's the day to day, but HR has extended past that. And it's more into the business, understanding what the business is doing, having the right talent in place to help that business grow. And so that's understanding people dynamics, right? That's
mm-hmm,
understanding, not everybody is a people leader. So you might have an individual contributor, or you might have someone that's a people leader and helping the organization to distinguish, what is needed for which situation. Um, so I would say being an HR practitioner today is more complex because the laws are changing extremely fast and
mm-hmm,
it's having the the knowledge base, but also understanding the nuances of when to apply and how to apply to support that business, right? It's also understanding, people development, leadership development, and how do you get the best out of your folks and align them to the business uh, mission, right? So it's a little bit more than just
okay,
recruiting. It's a little bit more than recruiting. But I really enjoy what I'm doing. I've been doing this
mm-hmm,
for quite some time.
right.
And, it's really exciting to see an organization grow and you were part of how that organization grew, having the right people in the right roles to expand, to grow, looking at new business ventures and what does that look like. That's why I love startup. Startup, you can kind of break it and build it as you go along,
Mm-hmm,
um, and it gives you a lot of flexibility. I worked in a lot of different industries, and so there's just some industries that are more open to innovation than others.
mm-hmm,
But it's just having that comfort in your skill set and working with your team to get there. But I always say, people say HR is an easy job. You just talk to people. I say you should try it for a day.
right. And that's what I'm thinking. Like, it seems like it's just talking, but talking to a lot of different people, a lot of different personalities, can be kind of cumbersome, right? And kind of be overwhelming because everybody's different, but you probably have like a goal that's in mind or a vision or a destination to reach. Your job is probably kind of to get everybody on board with trying to getting there, or
Yeah, I would say there's it's an artful way, right? Because yeah, you do
mm-hmm,
you're helping folk kind of gaining consensus, getting everyone to kind of operate on the same page. And there are different work styles, right? But it's also knowing how to kind of blend those work styles together to get the best outcome, right? Sometimes it's more of an artful move, and then sometimes it's not. It's like, this is what we need to do, and this is how we're going to do it. Have a very clear, I think what's really important is having a clear direction when employees can't align around an organization's direction, a lot of times they don't understand why they're there. What are they working towards? What's in it for them? Right. And so it's important to articulate those things and make sure that everyone understands what is this map in front of them, and what is it that the company is expecting them to achieve. And of course, you want to build in some reward systems to that too, right? So
Right. Right.
that everybody shows up. I truly believe people show up to do their best work, to give their best. I truly do believe that. So there are a lot of things that get in the way of that.
Mhm.
And I think that's where good leadership comes into play, to help everyone have that clarity and to provide, a good path. I'm a huge fan of servant leadership for all the right reasons. And, one of the things that I learned from a leader that I, have a lot of respect for, was that he was just able to get this strong type A group of executives working well together, and all personalities were different. He didn't focus on the personality, he focused on what everyone brought to the table and mobilized them
Mhm.
around that, and was able to, I think, lead in a very productive way. So, um, yeah, that's what I'll say about that. So, what I do as an extension to, I'm an author.
Mhm.
Um, and that came, my first book was out of my dissertation, but the second book is on feedback, and it was basically out of all the things that I experienced during my career. It's the one thing that leaders just dread, and you can have the best communicator in the world and they just hate giving feedback. And so I wanted to create a simple roadmap for folks to just, tackle it in a way that's not so daunting. um, so yeah. So anyway, I kind of answered more than you were asking there, but um,
Right. Right.
yeah.
It's okay. Yeah. So now I want to know, like, how'd you even get into that part of the HR, right? Because did you have to
Mhm.
go through the ranks of like
Mhm.
recruiting and hiring and stuff like that first, or you just went straight to the leadership part of HR because
Mm.
that's what kind of person you were?
No, well, it's interesting. I think I kind of served in every HR role possible during my career.
Okay.
um, I literally started off as a techie. I was actually a tech, and I built out databases in a system called DBase 3. This tells you my age. Excuse me.
Okay. I'm a
And I
database
have,
administrator, so I know.
oh, so DBase
Yeah.
3 is the,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
okay. I'm sorry, I have a little bit of cold. I started my career as a techie, actually. So I was actually building out databases in DBase 3. The
Mhm.
particular project that I worked on, we didn't have the turnaround time to hire outside. So long story short, three of us were voluntold to go into HR.
So either
And
like do this or lose the job, right?
no, no,
No.
it was, we think your skill set will really fit here. And you scored very high on the analytics, and comp and benefits, there's a relationship. And so it was kind of sold to me that way.
Okay. Okay.
But and I just really enjoyed it. There's just so many different arms to HR. As you were mentioning earlier, there's compensation, there's recruiting,
Mhm.
comp and
Mhm.
benefits, employee relations. There's just so many different areas that HR touches in running a company. And so from there, I just stayed in HR, and I just learned as a generalist different um, departments. And from there, I just continued to move up, and I went back to school as an adult,
Mhm.
having a family.
Yay. First
That
time,
was,
right?
yeah, that was a juggle. And I got my MBA, and that also helped me to progress. And then um, I guess I wanted more torture. I went back to school as an adult and a mom and wife,
Right.
and got my PhD. So,
That's nice.
um, yeah, so, I always say you can do whatever you want to do. It was not easy. There's
Mhm.
always sacrifice. I think my kids have seen me study more than anything, but
Hmm.
it also has taught them some things as well. And so
Nice.
persistence and, being committed and following through and working hard. So those are all, I think good things for kids to see in a parent.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
hmm
And I say quite often, I don't know it's controversial, but some people aren't, just hip to what I'm saying. I always say you got to put yourself first. Like I put myself before my children at times because if they see me putting myself first, it's like they'll
hmm
understand how to put their self first, right? They see
yeah,
me, they see a parent putting themselves, at their beck and call, at their women neglecting their self, all they're gonna do is mimic and imitate that behavior, right? So
yeah, and then
um
they don't
I work
appreciate it.
absolutely. And I work
Yeah.
from home, and
Oh,
my
good.
kids see me working from home. They see me
hmm
working out at home, and I'm like, and we homeschool, right? So
mm
all those things,
Oh,
and I'm
nice.
like,
Uh-huh.
I still need to take care of me
Yeah.
because I'm the principal. My wife, she's the teacher, and so I'm
Oh,
just here for
nice.
disciplinary actions only.
Oh, that's cool.
And so and so if they come to me, it's not good. So you're taking away, my time is
Right.
you're supposed to be in school, you're supposed to be learning, I'm supposed to be working, providing. And if you got
Right.
to come see the principal, we're gonna have some issues, right?
Everybody has their role to play. Everybody has a role.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
definitely important to take care of yourself,
hmm
even with the family, and because you
Yeah.
got to be your best self for the family, right? Everybody has a
Absolutely.
role to play.
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
you mentioned leading leaders, right, or
hmm
encouraging leaders. So let's talk about that for a second because when I think of leaders, they're usually, like you said, I guess the guy you looked up to. He was like a leader's leader, right,
hmm
and he didn't really need much leading, I would guess, or
You know,
coaching,
it's,
or yeah.
I think, and it's just my experience and observation, but I think a good leader will know when to lead and when to follow.
Hmm.
And the gentleman that I was referring to, I think he was just comfortable navigating and not putting a title to it, but his actions demonstrated that and warranted that of respect as a leader. He was
Hmm.
fair, he was compassionate, served with empathy, never put a title on it, had a very clear direction for folks, no ambiguity, and was very clear and concise in his communication. I mean, you know, for me, what else can you ask for, right?
Right.
Um, and so I was able to really learn a lot by what he did, not what he said, um, but just watching how he navigated other leaders in the organization, how he problem solved. He was a great listener and looked at problem solving, of course, through the lens as a corporate leader, but also as a human being. And so
Hmm.
for a lot of folks, life is happening, right? And so
Right.
um especially in this crazy time we're in, I think it's important to let people know it's okay to be human and sometimes just
Absolutely.
to hit pause and give everybody their space to kind of have whatever moment they're having. Um, I, I think it's easier to show up with whatever goodness we have versus, what will hurt someone. And, you know, I'm just in awe of watching how things unfold with negativity when,
Hmm.
it doesn't have to be that way.
Welcome to the new dimension. Welcome to the new dimension. Ever since I don't, social media kind of has always been negativity driven,
uh-huh.
right? You could put out the most loving, caring, empathetic piece of whatever. You see somebody get their head cut off, it's gonna get way more traction than
Isn't that
whatever
crazy? That's just
whatever
crazy
love
to
you're
me.
putting out there.
Right. That's just crazy
And
to
I don't get it either.
I don't
Um,
know. I think right now people are just drawn to it, just drawn to the
I see.
negativity. I don't know. I was outside just walking to the store during my lunch break and I saw someone. I said, "Oh, hi." And, I said, "Have a good day." I held the door what's so good about it? What are you talking about? I mean, it was just so mean. I was just like,
Oh
wow, is
man,
that
no.
necessary? But yeah, but life is happening. You just don't know what the person's going through,
Yeah, and
So
you seem pretty optimistic. Like you said, God, you said you think everybody's coming to do their best,
I
right?
do.
That's
Yeah.
kind of an optimistic thing to say, right? And
Hmm.
then back to your leadership, you were saying leaders are great followers, right? Some of the best leaders are great followers.
Hmm.
If you can't follow, how are you expecting to lead? How are you expecting
Right.
to know what fellowship or following looks like,
Hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
uh, talk about just kind of you gave us the tip that you learned from your mentor, but talk about getting other leaders to kind of understand what they need to be doing to be better leaders. I'm
Hmm.
assuming that's what you do, right?
Yes. Um, well, you know what? I will say this. It starts with self-awareness.
Okay.
And it's hard to teach someone anything if they don't have self-awareness. And so I think self-awareness and self-reflection is so critical for anyone, especially a leader, to really hear what people are saying, right? And that's hard because think about it. You're in a seat, you're in a position of in a stature, whatever, and now someone's saying you don't communicate well, right? And so, sometimes people are interested in hearing that, and then sometimes people are not. And so, I'm more interested in helping leaders that really want to do the next level of work, because those are the leaders that are really make the workplace a great place for employees to show up. Right?
Mm.
It's hard to coach and teach if if a person lacks self-awareness. Otherwise, you spend more time debating the feedback, or you're debating observations, and that's just a waste of time.
I
It's just a waste of
I
time.
found myself saying this quote from Dick Gregory a lot lately. You know who that is, Dick Gregory?
Oh
You're
yeah,
from Chicago.
yeah,
You're from Chicago. Well,
yes,
you're not
I know
Chicago.
who Dick Gregory
And one of his like it wasn't even like it was so profound to me, but he said it in passing, and I was just gonna gloss over that. He was just like when you go to wake somebody up, um, and they're not ready to wake up, the first thing is like, why are you waking me up? Like, what's the point, right? So that's to your point of if they're not self-aware and willing to make the changes or do the work to change, then it's like you're just
Mhm.
you're talking to a brick wall. The whole
Yeah.
point is mute. All
Mm.
right.
And the reality is, most people show up to work, they want to learn from someone, they want to grow.
Mhm,
Leaders are no different. I mean, I've worked with some phenomenal leaders. I've worked at some phenomenal companies. And I
mhm,
think what has made them phenomenal is that they're just open to learning, and they're open to just being whatever that next level is.
right.
That person is wired differently, but
Mhm.
it creates an energy and a synergy that is I haven't seen before.
Can you share like what it is to be ready for the next level or being prepared to take the next level on?
I think I don't know what that means for each person, but
Mhm,
I where I've seen individuals excel is having a starting point and knowing that they want to learn and grow. And so it could be in many different areas, but having a plan to get there, I think is important, right? So my next level could be totally different than your next level, right? One
mhm,
is not right and one is not wrong. It's just whatever your career aspirations are. But it's having a plan and being open to the feedback to get there. So it might be I need better project management skills, right? So I might need to get feedback on how I can do that better, or learn from others that are doing a better job at it than me, right? And so that's
mhm,
leaning in, asking questions, maybe taking on additional projects that will build that muscle, right?
right.
Um, but leaders that I've seen, and I always keep in touch with people throughout my career, But leaders that I've seen, start off in this one role and then all of a sudden they're now, I work with this one gentleman. He was a recruiter. He's now a CEO. And, just to watch him go from a recruiter to go into another company and start at the bottom and just work his way up. And
Nice.
and I said, "How do you think you got there?" And he said, humility. And he said, "I just had to learn everything." And so he was just open to the journey. And I think that's what's most important is one, do what you love. Be
Right.
passionate about it. If you're going to spend 40 hours a week at a place, make sure that's what you want to do and you enjoy doing it. Of course, we all need a page, of course we all paying bills and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But you come to the table with some sort of talent and how you use that talent and how you want to elevate from it, you gotta own it. Um, and I've seen some leaders like I worked with for over 5 years. The same when I walked in the door and the same when I left. They were just not interested in changing who they are or the
Right.
organization. I think an organization does leaders a disservice when they say, "Oh, that's just Tenia. Don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just," and so they get a pass on bad behavior, right? And so that teaches the organization that it's okay to behave that way. And, it's also confusing because the moment, someone else is addressed,
Mm-hmm.
then you're like, well, wait a minute, that person, they do the same thing. And so you send mixed messages to the organization. So
Okay.
as a leader, it's important. One, what does that really mean, to you, the individual? What does it mean to the organization? You can be a leader and not lead a team. You can be an individual contributor. You can be a leader and have a team, of 3 to 5. You know, I see leadership as a responsibility because I want to go back to your other question, answer this question. I see leadership as a responsibility to the people you lead.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the title you hold. So
Okay.
you're responsible for the growth and development of the people that you lead. And I think a lot of organizations don't hold leaders accountable to that. And it can sometimes really hurt people's careers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're going to have a leader, they should be responsible and accountable to the people that they're leading. How are they developing them? How are they giving them feedback, right? And how are they taking the time to really understand the nuances of their team so that they can get the best out of their team, which means people tend to give more and have a better product for the organization. Therefore, you have stronger productivity, right? Stronger
Mm-hmm.
productivity, higher revenue, right? People matter. And so, it's really important to um, really understand, what is it that, different teams need? And do you have the right leader for that team? You can have a great leader, but might not be for a
Fair.
particular team, right?
Mm-hmm.
So having the right leaders, and you were asking my role as a leadership development, and it's helping organizations see what those right fits are, right, to drive their productivity, um, and also get the best out of the people that are doing the work.
So it's safe to say that we can leave behind the I'm this way and I'm not going to change type of mentality, right? Because it's clearly,
I
it's
don't,
not
yeah,
beneficial.
it's not, and really, what does it serve, right?
Mm-hmm.
When people say that, I say you're robbing yourself of growth,
Nice.
and you're robbing yourself of really seeing what your true capabilities are. That's really what that statement is saying.
Okay. No, that's I'm in. Oh, I have an older mother. I have an older
Okay.
father, and
Okay.
they kind of ignore the. They're not even old. They're mid 60s. I guess it's older, but
Uh,
they
I'm in
like.
that category, so okay.
All right. No way. You're not. No way. All right.
I'm 58.
I would have definitely called you 40. They
No, no, no,
okay.
no.
All right. So, but they refuse to accept technology. They refuse to adopt technology.
Oh,
They
that's
are the
funny.
definition of the man on the horse watching the car drive by, yelling, "I'm
Hmm.
not getting in that thing." All right. They have smartphones, but they just kind of, I'm who I am, and this we didn't have this stuff in my day, and I'm not going to use it. I'm like,
Yeah, but then you have to look at too, like what do they touch in their day that it might not warrant them to know all of that, right?
right. Mm-hmm.
So, and or if something is, if their job is requiring or demanding, then of course I'm sure they'll be open to it. But um, I think that's any generation, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Seriously, when I look at the younger, like so I have a daughter in college,
Uh-huh.
and I ask her about technology all the time, and she just laughs at me like, "That's so yesterday, right?" And if you were to ask her to use particular technology, she'll do the same. Like, no, I'm not using that. I'm using this, right? But that's based on her exposure to
Mm-hmm.
technology, right? The same, I think, with you know it, you said more older, but I'll say Gen X. Is kind of the same thing. Is whatever you have exposure to or you're needing to use. I'm a little bit the same way. I was so intimidated by social media at first. I just got on Instagram, and I said I can't. I don't know how. Now I have to say I don't know how y'all juggle Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Like I don't know how a person's brain can go in so many different directions with social media. I can
Mm-hmm.
only do one. I
Right.
had I was on LinkedIn forever, and I was just happy to do LinkedIn. And then someone said, "Well, what about Instagram?" And I said, "What about it?" I said, "That's a job." So anyway, it it really depends, on what you're consuming and how you're using the technology, and is it social? Is it for work? And
Mm-hmm.
everybody kind of connects with it differently. So
Man, for my, I'm gonna leave my parents alone in a second, but like, I just
okay.
wanted them to send me a picture of something, like while we were talking. Like, can we just get there?
Well, you have to sit with them and show them because you know what I will say it is consuming, and now there's AI, there's the
Mm-hmm.
technology, and I love tech now. I do love technology, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm a technology geek. I will test and try all kind of technology, but I will say it is very overwhelming because every
Mm-hmm.
day there's something new coming out,
Yes.
and
Yes.
or there's different iterations of what's existing, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so they're all competing for your time and utilization. So how do you maximize and get the best out of these different technologies, and why is one better than the other? you know I'm just trying to figure out SEO, like, okay, well, what is that supposed to really do for my
Right.
website?
Right.
So yeah.
Nice.
It takes a little time. Takes a little time.
Yeah. And then when you mentioned Instagram, I said you don't want to come hang with us young kids. You don't us young folks on Instagram join the party.
Oh my gosh. I tell you, Instagram is I think they're all great tools, right?
Right. Right.
Um, but I just don't want to see the human side of connecting go away, you know. So
Um. Yeah. Yeah.
technology
So
creates a lot of illusions. I'd rather the organic. I know we'll never have the telephone back, but
uh. So
however,
yeah.
still, being able to have a conversation with someone, um, and connect, I think is important. And
So
I would hate to see that
I,
go away.
I can see you being a LinkedIn person because like I said, you seem so professional, so optimistic, kind of laid back. Like once you go into Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, it's like a jungle in there, and you're like fighting off weeds immediately. You're fighting off ads immediately, right?
Right.
Um, and I can definitely see the humanization, right? The human
Yeah.
interaction is falling by welcome to new dimension,
Yeah.
falling by the wayside.
Yeah.
Two
Yeah.
things I with my children, like I told they're younger, and like so when they
Hmm.
talk on the phone, they don't even understand that it's not a video call because like they could be on the regular phone call, but they're holding it like somebody's
Oh.
looking at them like every single
Oh.
time, and it's like they didn't. And I tell them they don't see you, they don't care, just. And I have to put it on speakerphone. Like only my oldest put it to his phone, but he doesn't even like to do it. He's like put it on speakerphone, like first thing to my head. Like I don't
Wow.
know why they hate it.
Well, just think about when they become teenagers. Teenagers, they're going to have something totally different.
Right.
It'll probably be a hologram, or I don't know. It'll be something
You
wild,
can't even imagine, right? And
right?
but also
Yeah.
with the homeschooling factor, like we go to a homeschool group to make sure we get some FaceTime with other people, some interaction with other people, and they're not just learning from me and mom all the time, right? I
Oh,
used to
okay.
do a computer literacy program before pre-pandemic, right? And I
Oh,
would take my laptops to the community
that's
centers
good.
and teach them computer literacy, right?
Right.
But one of my alternate exercises would be, because, like I said, I'm a techie, and one of
Hmm.
my strongest suits of being a techie is I can communicate, and I
Okay.
can communicate with shareholders, directors,
Hmm.
programmers, developers, whoever, right? Um, and I understood that a lot of other techies sometimes,
Hmm.
like you said, lack that soft skill. They don't even want to talk to nobody. They want you email me the problem, and I will email your resolution, right? And that's the best communication I'm going to get for you. I would
And there's
take the
nothing wrong with
kids.
that.
It's not, but
Yeah.
again, they don't have that human interaction to talk to somebody. And so
Yeah.
I would take the kids to in the library, and we go find a stranger.
Hmm.
The kids would be from like the ages of 9 to 16 to 17, right? And we go
Okay.
find a stranger, and we just have a regular old conversation. I'll be there with them. I do like the medium introduction. Hi, this is so and so. He'd like to have a conversation with you. And I came to a conclusion that the adults were just as frightened or awkward,
Hmm.
right, with the conversation as a child. And it was like, I think I helped the stranger out just as much as the child, because I just got to see them interact with a whole new stranger that they were. It was an impromptu conversation. They weren't expecting this conversation to happen, but it was like, it wasn't that bad. It's not that
Oh,
bad, right?
that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and so you mentioned earlier that you have a PhD in values driven
Value.
leadership.
Yes.
What
Hmm.
is that? Because I didn't know there was such a. I'm in my little tech bubble. I got my tech
Okay.
degree, my computer science. I'm looking for big data now.
Yeah.
What is a values driven leadership?
Leadership. Yeah. It's exactly what it says. It's just it's a higher premium on having values as a leader. And so
Okay.
values driven leadership is um it's the program, and it focused not primarily, but it focused on organizational behavior, organizational capacity. As leaders, how do you show up in these organizations or different arenas in a productive, positive way, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
there's integrity, where there's values, where you model the behaviors that employees would respect, right? And so a lot of the program focus was just understanding who are you as an individual, and how does that show up in your leadership style.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of self-reflection, and I think a lot of learning on adapting as a leader, right? Because everybody has a different approach and different need, and if you're trying to get a collective group to work together,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's approaching things differently than, I would say, more traditional way where I'm the leader, I tell you what to do and you do as I
Right.
say, versus really understanding the collective body and what motivates them, what are their drivers, what are the skill sets, how do you get the best out of that group. And so the values driven program itself, even though it had a high organizational development component, it was a stronger focus on the different leadership styles and how to use them in a productive way, but also understanding as leaders, we are, responsible and operate with integrity. And of course, values, there lies values driven. Um, but that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Okay. Nice. All right. So, are you able to share a time when you kind of, let's see how I want to word this, had a leader that you were trying to help, but they weren't open to it, but then you kind of got them to see the error in their ways and they became better leaders?
Oh, that happens a lot. I won't say see the errors in their ways. I don't think of it that way. I
Okay.
think it's always a two-way street, right? I mean, I tend to approach it as what can I learn from them, and
Mm-hmm.
how can I help the situation? And um, I think it always starts off a little bit of apprehensive uh, approach, because it's hard to hear that you need to change something,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, I always start with what is the person doing well first. It's always easy to start with and build success off of where people are comfortable. And then, I try to understand, where is the gap? Why is there a gap? And what is their interpretation of that, right? So it's more learning for me in the beginning, just really understanding where the person is and where they want to go. And typically I'm working with a 360 feedback, and so it's understanding kind of the different views and opinions. And there's good and bad in that as well. Sometimes people provide productive feedback, and sometimes people don't, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
I call it throw up, because I felt bad this day, and that's why I gave you a 4. I don't know. So um it's just trying to make sense of it all so that it's productive for that person, right?
Okay.
So I don't think anyone, typically shows up to say, yeah, give me the feedback, bring it on, you know. It typically doesn't happen that way. There's typically, I'm not sure, I don't know if I agree with it. And so you're um, really just trying to understand where they are to help them
Mm-hmm.
get to where the organization needs them to be. And so it's just, for some, it's a slower walk. And um, I don't go in saying, oh, I got to change this. I don't look at it that way. I
Mm-hmm.
approach it, how can I help the situation and understand it? But let me understand it first, um, and see really what their learning temperament is, right? And also understand all dynamics, right? 'Cause you might not be, assisting in the way you think unless you really understand all the dynamics.
Okay. So I definitely was thinking like you're going in and saying, I know what's best for you, so listen to me and take
No,
take what I'm telling you. No,
no,
I
that's
know
not
you're
my
not.
style. That's not my style. And I don't, I don't I don't go in having the answers.
Mm-hmm.
There's one situation, and I'll tell you why. I had one situation where literally the team was setting the leader up to fail. I mean, it was a huge undercurrent. And so the team had aligned to give negative feedback because they didn't want that leader to lead them anymore. So there was some personal there was just a lot of dynamics there. And so when I started, working with the leader, started unpacking it, it wasn't what it was presented. And so um, I never go in assuming I have all the answers or I know what's going on. And um, I just take the time to really unpack it and understand it, and see what the learning temperament is, not just for that leader but for that team as well.
That's so I call myself a leader, and these are some
Hmm.
things that I kind of do, but it's like listen to you, and it's like I can understand why that would work over just follow me. I know where we're going. As or you're not doing it right. Do it this way. You know.
Mm.
Um, so I'm hoping people can learn. Hence the name, figuring shit out. Like these are some things that you can probably add to your repertoire if you are a leader, right? And if you're not a
Mhm.
leader and you aspire to be one, these are probably things that you should probably try to incorporate in
Yeah.
your leadership, right? So I thank you for coming. I appreciate this conversation because it's very insightful. And like I said, I didn't know HR had leadership. I thought you guys was hiring and doing the monies and stuff, right?
Oh my
So,
gosh.
I'm glad we got this conversation.
Yeah, and I say ask questions. As a leader,
Yeah.
ask questions. Don't assume, ask questions. Really get to
Mhm.
understand what the expectations are and what the drivers are. Really to really know how you can support your team.
Right.
Because we don't have all the answers, right? And there's 7 different ways to do things, right? And so I'm always curious to see how someone will lace up their shoes. It might be different than me. I've learned
Right.
something. As leaders, we should be learning things too. And so, if we're not, that's not good for the team and it's not good for us. So I always say, don't show up with the answers, show up with questions.
Ooh, I like it. Personal responsibility. Personal responsibility. Take personal responsibility. If you
Mhm.
take care of yourself, and
Yeah.
if you take care of your learning, it will
Mhm.
show. You can't know everything, right? So I like
Right.
that going with questions.
Yeah.
So our final question for our guest. So we asked you in the beginning, what was your figuring shit out moment, and you gave us a couple, but
Mhm.
mistakes. Making mistakes is okay. Like I think that.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
so the final question is, what are you trying to figure out now in this particular moment? What's on your figuring shit out now list?
Wow. Well, if I had if I had a magic wand, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think our country needs healing, and I think there's a lot of pain,
Mm-hmm.
and that's manifesting in so many different ways. And um, I want to see a world where my kids will be able to thrive. Your kids will be able to thrive. And I don't want to have to worry about the color of my kids' skin to dictate how someone will treat them.
Oof.
Especially, so, um, yeah, as a parent, there's a lot that I worry about. You know, we can teach our kids all the great and wonderful things to be great corporate citizens.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone decides they don't like the way their hair is wrapped and feel that
Organized,
it's
right?
okay, yeah, it's just a very interesting place. And
Mm-hmm.
the vibrato and anger against people, it's just senseless to me. And so I really worry about the world that I will leave for my kids.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
That is a subject and a topic and a conversation in its own. um, no, I definitely get it. That's probably in the next dimension. After we, after we get out of this dimension, it's the darkness before the dawn, right? It's pretty dark right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And so,
mm,
I just want to be able to leave a legacy for my kids.
mhm.
But to answer your question in short, it's important for me to leave a legacy for my kids, and but I also want it to be in a place where they can use it and where they can thrive.
Yes, ma'am. Unify and thrive is what I started the show with. Please, people, don't forget it. It's getting spooky out there, and we need to stick together now more than ever, or just like before, because we used to stick together and we used to thrive together. And then
Mm,
somehow, somewhere, there was a wedge and some things thrown in there to make sure you did not want that, for your immediate future, right,
yeah,
and beyond, right. So let's get back to unification, unifying and thriving, and then just thriving in general. Like we've survived. You
mm,
survived. Where I'm from, 25 was a myth, right? And
yeah.
we made it. So now it's time to thrive, right? So let's grow. Uh, Dr. Davis, I appreciate you coming on. This is a really good conversation,
Thank
very
you.
insightful. Let
Thank
people
you.
know how they can find you and get in find your book and stuff like that and contact you?
So my books are on Amazon. I do have a website, The Leadership Wise. So that's The Leadership Wise, WISE.com. And I'm on Instagram, The Leadership Wise.
All right,
Really,
and we'll
really
have
easy.
we'll have those links in the show notes. Again, we thank you for coming out and
Thank
appreciate
you
you
for
for
having me.
fighting through your and it was a great conversation. A nice
Thank
meeting.
you. Nice meeting you as well.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And